In this video, you're going to hear nothing but the truth. No bullshit at all. It's going to be a rush job, this one, but this very well be the last video that I make. This very well be a video that by the time that it's seen by many people, I will no longer be around. Either I'll A, have disappeared, B, be dead, or C, be in prison for something I didn't do. And now you're saying, oh, Jacob, don't be so fucking dramatic. Listen, this affects me in a huge way. And I don't want to suffer. And I need my truth to be out there. So here's what's happened. The month prior to the incident, I was working night shift at Newcastle. I had to live with my dad because when wages weren't enough to support myself or pay rent anywhere else. Any roommates I could have had were unreliable. I had to live with him. I had no other option. I had other than living in my car, which is what I've been essentially doing for the last year. By the way, all this happened over a year ago. But my dad would threaten me. He would ask me, would you rather be buried or cremated? He would tell me on a daily basis, I'm going to fucking kill you. One day, a couple weeks before the incident, he told me, come to my room. And I go into his room, and he's bent over his bed, and he's like, there's a box on his bed. He out of the box, he pulls a gun, he points it to my head, he says, I'm going to fucking blow your brains out right now. And I said, because I was in a distressed situation. I was depressed. I said, do it. Do it. And he hesitated. He put the gun away. And he gave me this fake apology. Now, me and my dad have a close relationship. I love the guy. He's a fucking horrible human being. But for the sake of humanity and because of my ethical values, I don't feel like he deserves being condemned, okay? But right after he pulled that gun on me, I called my family. I told my mother, I told my brother, I told my sister, I told my uncle. They convened and allegedly took his gun away from him. Fast forward to a couple weeks later. It's my day off on my night shift, so I'm awake in the middle of the night. Well, I said the middle of the night, like 1 a.m. I have a phone call. I don't want to wake him up, so I walk outside. I take the phone call. I only walk, I'd say like a quarter mile. It's like maybe a half mile. 10-minute phone call, anyways. I come back, and he starts screaming at me. He says, you fucked with the thermostat, you turned it up to 90. And I was like, I didn't touch the thermostat, I wasn't even here. We go our separate ways. Pause. Shortly after the first thermostat incident, I go back in my room. And I notice it starts getting sweaty in there. So, right outside my room, I turn the thermostat back down. Then he confronts me, and a little bit of background. My brother and sister don't talk with him barely anymore. My sister doesn't talk with him at all, because he's always been very aggressive and abusive in multiple ways, mostly verbally, but it always escalates to physical for me. I'd always let him beat the hell out of me because he's much older, much weaker. So it just seemed easier to let him just beat me up and get it out of his system, and he'd always apologize later, and it'd always be just this fake, empty apology. And my dad has no friends at all, and my mom divorced him because he's done this his whole life. His own mother even says, that's just Billy being Billy. Anyways, he confronts me and says that I'm fucking with the thermostat, and I keep changing it up to 90 and turning the fan off. And he starts yelling at me. I tell him that something's wrong with the thermostat, clearly. I don't know if those smart thermostats could be hacked or what. I told him that it's possible. He's completely technologically, he's not fluent with technology whatsoever. So he starts attacking me. He starts kicking me first. He pushes me. He pushes me from the hallway into the laundry room. I fall down. And then I get up and I push him off of me because he's on top of me at this point almost. I push him off me by grabbing by his neck and pushing up. I don't squeeze. I don't strangle him. I'm not choking him out. I just push him off me. And then I let go. I say, do you really think it's in your best interest to keep doing this shit to me? And then he says, and I swear to God, verbatim, ow, my necky poo. Then, pause. I was scared to live with him because my family told me that they had gotten his gun taken away, but while I was looking around, I found it in his middle drawer next to his bed. And I knew that my life was in danger living there. And I didn't have any other realistic options for places to live. So early in the morning, I packed up everything that I thought was essential, critical. I had the foresight to realize something's about to happen. So he goes to work. He tells this story to a nurse. He works at this hospital as a scrub tech. He has since he's 17. And he's 58 now, I believe. Pause. I pack up my essentials. My laptop. Everything valuable. Extremely valuable. Note that my entire life I've been working on a project that everything that I have created, I wanted to put together. The vast majority of that was stored within hard drives and file cabinets in his house. So I grabbed what I could in a backpack and I walked to my brother's house. At this point, I'm telling my buddy John Deagle, shout out to John Deagle, about what happened when the police come knocking and I'm arrested. Pause. At this point, I don't know what I'm being arrested for. My dad didn't press charges. The state pressed charges. He works at a hospital. It was hearsay through work. He told the story as if I strangled him, when in reality, I was defending myself by pushing it off me. I didn't squeeze. I pushed up. I would have got a misdemeanor if I would have punched him, but I didn't want to hurt him. But I want to make the jail experience as fast as possible because this video is already getting long. I don't get a phone call for 8 days. Pause. Post arrest, I don't get a phone call for 8 days. I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea why I was being arrested. I had no idea that the conditions were so bad. I had to sleep on concrete and freezing cells with multiple other dudes in intake for 2 days. I didn't get a phone call for 8 days. I wasn't arraigned for more than 10 days. They moved me from, this is during coronavirus quarantine. So a lot of the things about the jail were really fucked up. And the guards were even worse than the other inmates in terms of how I was treated. Pause. So I was moved from intake, which I was in for 2 days, which is a big room, to isolation. When I was in isolation, I was in this white room. I was losing my mind. I was going through alcohol withdrawals. And I just started banging on the walls. I was like, tell me what's going on. I need a lawyer. Am I not entitled to a lawyer? Isn't this a human rights violation? Pause. Deep breath. Okay. I know I'm trying to make this video short, but it's not going to be. Because I was banging on the walls, I was taken to the hole, which is like where they put the worst of the worst. And in the hole, there's nothing in the room. Nothing. You have your prison garments. You have a green sweater. I was able to actually sneak another green sweater in, so I had something to sleep on. There's not a toilet in there. There's no water in there. So I had to keep begging for water. It was at this point I had a seizure. A grand mal seizure. And I bit my tongue so hard that I couldn't even eat. I bit through my tongue. Pause. At this point, I went into a semi-coma. They moved me to an even deeper part of the hole. I got to see what they called the Red Room, which was a room that is plastic red pyramids everywhere. Walls, ceiling, everywhere. So you can't sit comfortably. You have to piss on the floor and fucking deal with it. And in the padded room, the room I was in before, the toilet was a hole in the ground. So you had to, if you wanted to pee without worrying about getting some kind of infection or something, you had to like pee in the push-up position. So I held my poop in for more than a week because I didn't want to poop in that hole. I was scared. I don't want to get like an STD or AIDS or something from making contact with that, because it was unsanitary as hell, and I couldn't believe these conditions that I was being subjected to. Pause. For not having left a mark on my father, I was put in these conditions where I was in a semi-coma, and whenever they put me in the new cell that was adjacent to the Red Room, where I heard nothing but screaming. Just screaming. And then I could see through the peephole, which is just the meal hole. The only way I could see out was the meal hole, which I had convinced one officer to leave open. Just for a day. I could see them dragging bodies out of that. And then I learned about excited delirium much later, which is how the police will say, will justify killing people, murdering people, and say, oh, they were in a state of excited delirium. You know, they were on drugs. They'll blame it on shit like that. And basically allows them to get away with murder. I was scared to death. I went into a coma for 8 days. During that 8 days, I woke up twice. At both times were to grab a brown bag of food. And the food was an apple and a bologna sandwich. And like a bag of chips. A really tiny bag of chips. Okay, so after I woke up the second time, now I'm hallucinating really, really hard, and I'm back in isolation, in the normal isolation. Pause. I remember coming out of the coma, and I was in a completely different room, back in, adjacent to the original isolation room I was in. And having only eaten 2 apples, 2 sandwiches, and 2 bags of chips in almost a week, I was starving. And I think I was awoken to a knock on the door. And I fly out of my bed, which was just a metal plate, a suspended metal plate. And I go to the meal slot. I grab the tray, and I have nothing to eat with. So I take my prison ID or my jail ID card. I bend it in half. I use that as a spoon, and I lick the thing clean. And I go back to sleep. About 7 days later, I'm being put in quarantine, not gin pop. So it's basically like a 2-tiered jail system where there's a top floor and a bottom floor and like 24 inmates total, all living together, and you get one cellmate, and then the rest of the pod, they get to go out to the main area for 1 hour a day. And that was where I was for about a week. It was during this time that I got my first phone calls, and I was able to get in contact with my brother, who I had left a diamond ring worth $2,000 at his house when I got arrested. That's when I grabbed my essentials and whatnot. I had already put it on Facebook Marketplace and gotten offers for $500, and my bond was $700 to get out. So I was like, please just sell that and get me out of here. He got scammed, basically, long story short. And Caleb, if you ever hear this, I really don't want you to feel guilty if I die over this whole thing, because that's not your fault. You're an innocent soul too, and this world is just take advantage of wherever it can. My cellmate at this period was a very, very violent guy who I pushed a button on him, and he started attacking me. So I got moved to a whole different pod. And then there was like this Bloods versus Irish mob fucking gang war thing, and we all got shuffled around. And I ended up being moved to the violent offenders pod, and everyone else in there was either a first-degree murderer, a second-degree murderer, or a rapist. Pause. Okay, so I'm in the violent pod. I immediately get interrogated by the other inmates. What are you in for? Show us your papers. We want to make sure you're not a child molester. We're going to fucking murder you. I show my papers, and the guy laughs. He's like, you shouldn't even be in here. This is for the worst of the worst. He had some kind of deal going on with the guard. Something sketchy was involved, because he got everything. He got coffee, he got free everything, basically. And I guess he had some kind of sexual something going on with both his cellmate and one of the guards. So he had an in. And he told me, and I trusted the guy. He seemed like he would be helpful. He told me that if I wanted to get out of there, then I should say that I'm in fear for my life. And I really was. So I hit the button, which was like a button in a room where you can talk to like the personnel upstairs. And I told them I'm in fear for my life. And at this point, I had written down a list of my drug allergies very, very, very thoroughly. Very, very, very meticulously written down a list of my drug allergies, because I didn't want them to have, give me something that would paralyze me again, or the things I've gone through with the Oklahoma system before. that have damn near killed me several times. I'm so lucky to be alive. I didn't want that to happen again. So I hit the button, and the guards reassure me, "Oh, your papers will be safe. We will put them away in a place that will be reobtainable." Pause. Now, if you didn't think it was bad yet, this is where it gets really bad. The guards lied to me when they said that my papers would be reobtainable. Then they put me in a room, isolation chamber, no clothes, with another violent offender. We were both naked. The only thing either of us had in the cell was this green jacket. That's all either of us had. We weren't allowed to have anything else. I guess my cellmate, who couldn't read or write, he's in his 20s, big guy. I eventually befriended him, tried to teach him math. Try to get him to his times tables, because that's where he was, like, intellectually. Like, he didn't even know anything beyond addition and subtraction. And, you know, I wanted the best for him. I wanted to be on good terms with this guy, because I was stuck in a room naked with him I was on top bunk for 10 days. I had no idea how long it would be either. He kept on constantly threatening me too, and then by the time that I said that, you know, I don't care, like, go ahead and threaten me, like, I'm not gonna fight back, you can do whatever the fuck you want, I don't care at this point. I feel like, this is worse suffering than torture than I've ever imagined in my life before. He requested to be put back in a padded room, but he had been in jail so long that they had known about him requesting this before, and they were like, "No, you get to stay in there with him." The guards are sadistic, extremely sadistic. They automatically assume culpability for every single person that goes to those doors. They automatically assume that I had harmed another human being badly, which I hadn't. I hadn't left a mark on my dad. In fact, if you add up all the things that my dad has done to me, oh my god, I've never hurt my dad even close to as much as he's hurt me. But that's aside the point. I was in this isolation cell for 10 days. Then I finally got to shower. I finally got out of that cell. I finally got put back in Gen Pop, or for the first time in Gen Pop. And now I have to pause. Since this video is already taking so long, I'm going to try to rush through the rest of this, okay? While I was in Gen Pop, I first got put in with this guy that was incredibly violent and attacked me. I hit the button, and I told the guards that he was going to attack me. And then him and the whole fucking pub were like, "Oh, this motherfucking snitch, blah, blah, blah." So I got put in a cell with the shot caller of the Aryan Brotherhood of the entire fucking jail. The very first thing he did was throat punch me several times in the stomach, and then choke me out. But over time, we got to exchanging stories, and he was my permanent cellmate. From that point on, he was my permanent cellmate. And I had to trust him whenever it came down to hammer the guards. And the guards were cruel. Seriously cruel. Like, they'd wake us up in the middle of the night, drop our trays. I mean, not even being fed for 8 days should tell you enough. Pause. Okay, long story short, I got moved in with him. We got switched between pod to pod to pod. He would wake me up masturbating naked on the bottom bunk, getting the other people in the Aryan Brotherhood to try to fucking attack me too. First friends I made there were these black guys at the tables in the downstairs whenever we had rec. When we had rec, I went down there, I sat with them, I talked with them. They were like, asked me my story. They said, that's fucked up. They gave me some peanut butter, some crackers, and we sang together. And then I admitted it out loud. Yeah, I fucking hate these white people here. These white people here are fucking horrible. Because, to be honest, it wasn't a race issue. It was the individual issue. Each of the people that had been harassing me and torturing me and attacking me this entire time had been white. So I was going to side, obviously, with the people that were being nicest to me. So I developed a friendship with the black people first, and then the Mexicans, and then the natives. And we had I really got along with these guys because they're really crafty. They can make me extended pencils so I could write more, and make trades for ramen and stuff, and I was just able to get by better with them, but I was cellmates with the shot caller of the Aryan Brotherhood. So I had to kind of like play my cards correctly, because I directly said, I fucking hate you white people. So me and my cellmate got in several conflicts over the time that we were in there, and the guards just watched on like it was a fucking TV show. I was on top bunk, and whenever I got out of my bed to try to pee, which, by the way, I mean, there's no privacy at all. You could whip your dick out right in front of, within a meter of the guy who's laying right next to you. There's no curtain, no nothing. So I hopped out of the top bunk to try to pee. He tried grabbing my leg as I was jumping out of off the top bunk, and I nearly ate it. I nearly hit the fucking ground and busted my head. I barely caught myself. And this is the very first time that I had gotten mad the entire time. And I guess you have to prove yourself as being masculine in there, and everybody there thought I was gay because I was very feminine and very non-aggressive and not what they'd expected from somebody that was in that unit. So I retaliated at that point whenever he tried to catch my leg, and actually, I wish that whole catch was on camera, but when he grabbed my leg, and I did a 720 back heel kick to hit the side of his head, and then he respected me. But that was not the first time we got in a fight. After that, he respected me and he gave me my space, because at this point I was known as two names: Blonde Beard and Jet Li, because I can kick. I've practiced kicking a lot of my life. Anybody that knows me pretty well will know that I'm extremely versatile with my feet. Anyways, at that point, we became starting to try to get to like a friendly sort of situation where we could just like deal with each other, whatnot, and chat, and he would leave me alone. However, and pause. However, he still didn't respect me fully, and he was really salty about the fact that not only had, after I kicked him, I mean, I knocked him pretty good. I was afraid of retaliating because I felt like that was why I was in there to begin with. Self-defense, period. I was being attacked, I was attacking back, and that was why I was in jail to begin with. So I didn't want to get my charges to be worsened because I did the same thing again. And the other two Aryan Brotherhood people were on the same floor as me, and they would run by and tell me rules. You got to be in bed. You got to be down by this time. This and that. You can't have the fucking iPad for studying or anything like that. And I didn't listen to any of them. And at one point, all four tried to team attack me, but they couldn't fucking catch me. It was too slippery. In that process of dodging all of them at once, I jumped, and there's a shelf like right in front of the door, and I knocked my head on the corner, and almost knocked myself out because I jumped so high and so hard, which really, really hurt. And that was enough for them because I was on the ground and they choked me out. They didn't rape me. I was too fucking slippery. The guards didn't fucking care. Like, the guards really don't care. The guards actually are sadistic there. Not only sadistic, stupid. But, anyways, this went on until my hearing committee, which is like 50 days in, which I thought was my hearing, so that I could get out of there, my case be dismissed, my dad didn't press charges, it was the state. But no, it was just to figure out when my pre-trial would be. So then I realized I have to stay another month in here. And so it basically went on like that for a month, and by the time I got out, I had been so traumatized by all the fighting. I will say this. I will say the last time we fought. Well, I'll tell two stories. The last time that me and him fought was because I was walking on a tightrope, getting along, trying to be cellmates with the shot caller of the Aryan Brotherhood, and also being friends with the other gangs. I was neutral. I was independent. I was not part of a gang at all. So he got a wet towel, and while I was writing a letter, he snapped me in the balls. Okay, and I was so focused in such a haze from all the mental distortions I was experiencing, those cognitive distortions that I was experiencing from the drugs they were giving me, from just the PTSD of the situation itself, that whenever he snapped me right square in the balls, sonic boom type of fucking towel snap, it hurt. It hurt bad. So I jumped up and I kneed him in the chin and knocked him out. That was the last time me and him fought. And that's the last time me and him actually had any conflict. After that, he respected me. And after that, he gave me my space. Because he knew that I could hold my own against him. Granted, he's like 20 years older than me. And surely, like, I'm not all that athletic. Like, I'm not trying to hype myself up here at all. I'm just saying, in that situation, I retaliated appropriately. Then the second story is, we finally, for the first time in 70 days approximately, got to feel the outside air. Got to see the sky. It was a room in the middle of the jail with an open ceiling. Granted, there was like chains and like a chain link fence on top. And there's also solid concrete for like 4 meters, 20 feet prox. So there's no way anybody could have gotten out. I mean, that wasn't the point. I folded my flip-flops into a hacky sack and started playing hacky sack against the wall to try to improve my kicking abilities. But the white people were like, hey, if that thing bounces into the territory of the indigenous, other colored people, non-white people, basically, then they're gonna get mad at you. You better fucking watch out because they see you as part of us because race is all that fucking matters in here. I was like, that ain't gonna fucking happen. I'm in control of this. Well, I kept on trying harder and harder tricks until eventually it did land in the range of those guys. One of them turned around and just gave me a look, and I was like, out of respect, I will not do this anymore. Finally, I come to my pre-trial hearing about 3 days later. Pause. At my pre-trial hearing, I was ready. I was so ready. I was so ready to leave. I thought that I had been in there too long. I had suffered far more than I had ever inflicted on anyone else in my life. Anytime I've ever hurt anyone emotionally or physically in my life combined was inflicted on me 10 times at least throughout that entire experience. So I thought that it would be, I thought I had a good lawyer. I was a state appointed lawyer. We go into the courtroom and my legs and hands are cuffed and my dad shows up. My dad doesn't understand that if he didn't show up, then the case would have been dropped. He was on my side, but he didn't understand that. He didn't understand how corrupt the court system is. So my lawyer said, unless you plead guilty, even though I pled non-guilty at the beginning because I didn't strangle him, unless you plead guilty, then you're not going home. And I was so tired of being in jail at that point that I would have done anything to go home. So I pled guilty. I regret pleading guilty. I should have stayed in jail. I had pled non-guilty at first, which is why they put me in isolation. But I pled guilty to a deferred felony for 3 years. So if I don't follow all their instructions for 3 years, then I'm going to prison. And apparently food's better there, but I won't be able to hold my own against those guys. And pause. As a teen, I've heard the white guys in prison will knock the teeth out of any pretty boy and rape any pretty boy that comes in there, and I'm definitely considered a pretty boy by their standards. So the penalty for this whole thing was I have to go through probation for 18 months. Or no, for 2 years. 18 months supervised, 6 months unsupervised. And every probation hearing, drug tests, I gotta make sure that I have positive living conditions, whatever. The thing is, it's impossible. Because after being labeled a felon, even though my lawyer told me that since it's a deferred sentence, it won't show up on my record as being a convicted felon, I still couldn't get a job. I had to find a job, and I found a job eventually at Crest Foods, which is where I'm working now, and I don't get paid enough to pay all the fees that I have, but in court my lawyer argued, and I could show proof. In fact, if I do this video again, I will cut into this video a screenshot of the scan of the document that shows no probation fees. However, the probation office says they can't do that. We're a private company. The state can't do that. We're a private company. We operate on profit for profit. They can't say no probation fees. Well, that's what my lawyer argued for. So I got no probation fees, but since I don't pay probation fees and it's a private company, they treat me like shit. And I'm an alcoholic. Well, not like you'd think. I don't like, I mean, I don't drink liquor at all. I can't drink liquor at all. I drink like a 4 pack a day on average. And then whenever I get so bad it has to go to the hospital, that's like 8 to 10 of these. Bud Ice 5.5%, 16 ounces. And they have to give me Librium in order to stabilize me so I don't have a life-threatening seizure. Pause. So, I've been going through these these classes for, I think I'm on like week 28 of my classes, and I've had one absence, which I had papers for. They scanned the papers. They say they have no record of it. I accept that because it's a maximum of 7 absences within a year, or you have to start over. I'm about halfway through that, and I'm about 9 months into my probation or something like that. And 9 months to a year, I really don't even know. I haven't kept track. It should be a year because I got out of jail in November of last year. So, pause. My dad has accepted culpability for his actions, so he pays for my classes, which are already at a lower rate because it's impossible for me to earn more than the poverty line, which is $14.67 a month gross income. So my income is, or the payments I have to make are only $10. So he accepts culpability for that because he doesn't want to be incarcerated or go to court over him pointing a gun at me because there's witnesses of that. The whole him attacking me thing and me retaliating by jumping up and pushing his neck against the wall. There's no witnesses for that. I didn't strangle him. I didn't even grab him for longer than a couple seconds, I swear. But anyways, my last probation hearing, they wanted to do a drug test because I've gone through 3 probation officers. They keep quitting because I guess they realized that it's like extremely violation of human rights what they're doing to people in Oklahoma. Whenever I showed the third new probation officer my papers to prove that I don't have to pay probation fees, he said, okay, we're going to have to do a drug test. Well, I had a beer the night before, and I have to have beers, because if I don't have beers, then my anxiety is so bad, then I start shaking. I can't fucking breathe. My heart rate jumps to 160 beats per minute, and I am capable of having grand mal seizures. And I have had several in my life that have been extremely close to killing me. Pause. So, because I have another friend who's in a similar position, and who I consider a sister to me, Mercedes, went through something like, she actually hurt her mom instead of, like, not even, I didn't even hurt my dad, this whole ordeal, and I've been tortured, like, unbelievably tortured since I was presumed to have hit my dad. I think the Sixth Amendment says right to a fast and speedy trial. 73 days in isolation. You know, that felt like more than half my life. I was sick as dying fuck. I mean, it's a miracle I made it this far, but, you know, they told me because I don't have to pay probation fines that's not profitable for them more or less. So I gotta go take a drug test. Well, I had a beer the night before, and so I was like, okay. And they said they had no record of giving me a drug test before, which I actually did quit everything for a while. I got too depressed. The drugs that they gave me paralyzed me. Risperidone paralyzed my tongue. Acinapine, Saffris, trade name. That, like, paralyzed my whole body. I couldn't think. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I couldn't think. I think that might have permanently damaged me. An incredibly evil molecule, if you ever look into it, or if you understand chemistry. The way that affects the brain is, I mean, just look at Wikipedia. The way that affects the brain is unprecedented. It's the most powerful antagonist of all the serotonin receptors that's ever been found by humanity, and probably, I would guess, like, only synthesized for the sole purpose of torturing people, which fucking worked. It's a miracle I'm even able to talk to y'all today, but since they ordered me to have a drug test, I just walked out, and my next probation appointment is on the 6th, and I'm going to the hospital on the 4th so I can get some Librium so that I'll pass for benzos. And I have my weed card. I got approved for my weed card. But I'm not sure if the state will approve me for my weed card. So it's like they say has a gun to my head. It's like, do I want to go through that again? Or do I just want to take the fast way out? And I could easily just kill myself. Like, anybody that really cares about me would understand that going through that kind of thing again, even worse for a longer period of time, it's inhumane, especially for fact of the matter. Like, I never hurt anybody. Definitely didn't hurt my dad. I'm the one who had a gun pointed to my head, literally. I'll take the fast route out. And the state really fucked up on this. This isn't justice. And I think that's my story in a nutshell. To be honest, I think I'm done. Like, if they order me to go back, I have an easy way out. Easier than a bullet to the head. I found a way I can kill myself painlessly, and I don't have anything to look forward to. I have no female companionship. Even the people that I have, Brian and Brock. Brian's incredibly empathetic. Brock gives me a place to stay for $200 a month. And I have Brandon, who I take to work, and he's gone through a similar form of hell. But I mean, there's no there's nothing to look forward to in life. So why would I want to survive just to go through prison hell again and come back with that record and no opportunities to use my knowledge, experience, memories, everything that I've accumulated over my life in order to contribute to humanity and society? I don't think I can. I don't think I want to do that. I would rather die. I've thought about every possibility of what happens after death. And it seems like it's safest to assume that nothing happens after death. Simply consciousness fades into nothingness, and that sounds so much more relaxing and peaceful than constantly making evil people money by suffering because the system can't handle their only method of acquisition of resources and money is through torturing its citizens in Oklahoma. That's basically my message, y'all. Literally none of that was bullshit. Told it straight as fast as I could because I'm in a hurry because I want the rest of my day to be okay. I love you guys, and if this is the last you hear from me, I'm really sorry, but I hope you know that I'm at least not suffering anymore. The things that I've gone through here are, you'd never know until you go through it yourself. I hope you never do. Compelled speech is an infringement on free speech. This isn't America anymore. Capitalism without accountability is fascism. All that people want to do is fight and point the finger. All I want to do is tell the truth and get my story out there at least once so that it's out there. And this could very well be my last month alive. Right? 26 days before my 31st birthday. I had so much potential, guys. I had so much potential. I had a really good life for the longest time. I was so lucky. I have the brother I do, the friends I do, the girlfriends I had. Even though I haven't been in a relationship for all of my 20s. I was really lucky early on. I got it out of my system. Now my greatest sin, I suppose, is that I'm still attracted to women. I don't know what else to say, guys. I love y'all. And I hope this isn't my last one. I should make a video that's more clickbaity. Or something. I'll try to make the most out of the rest of this day. So. I guess final words are, I haven't had a bed to sleep in, any privacy, more than a year, despite working really hard. I have not been able to save up any money. Despite having so much potential and so much love, I'm being treated like a murderer. And if I was to do one selfish act, it would be something I can't say because last time I did, the state made it even worse by pumping me with antipsychotics to try to murder my mind, to try to make me not think anymore. This is a consequence of what happens when money is more important than anything else in a lot of people's minds. maybe I'd be married to one of the women that I've really loved, still love. But I wouldn't even do that to them because there's no way I can make money anymore. Support a family. That weight is so heavy on me that I'm literally just a burden to everyone. So I have to make this video. I'm sorry.